So, welcome, y'all, to another Boss Talk session. I am so glad that all of you are here. So, a little bit about Boss Talk. Boss Talk is an online and in-person community for entrepreneurial women. So, Boss Talk sessions like this typically are done in person, but we have made a bit of a pivot because of COVID to do a lot more of them in a virtual setting. And these kind of sessions where we're doing interviews helps us connect to one another through stories. And so that's the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to the entrepreneurial journey. And so I am your host, LaVista Jones. It's Hasta La Vista, just to remember that. If you remember that, you'll say it right every single time, I promise. So I created Boss Talk back in 2018 after realizing that I was missing the stories in traditional networking settings. I would go and I would hear about all the fabulous things that other entrepreneurial women were doing, but I was missing the connection of the stories of how they actually got there. So I wanted to hear about their successes as well as how they failed in order to get themselves there. What was the journey that they had to take to get to that book launching, to that speaking engagement, to that six-figure business that they have? And so Boss Talk was born. So in addition to being the host, I also run a consultancy called 31 Marketplace. And in a nutshell, I help overwhelmed entrepreneurs get shit done in the marketplace without burning themselves out the boss way. And that's by battling overwhelm with systems and self-care. So, a little bit about today's workflow. Boss Talk has often been I can't even think of the word. Described. There we go. It's been described as a podcast with an audience. And so what happens during the course of a Boss Talk session, we have an interview. I said I have some questions that I have prepared for my guests, just like I do tonight. And then at the end of those questions, I actually open it up to all of you who are here with us live to be able to ask your own questions, either to myself or to the guest. And so don't worry if you're on Zoom, maybe this is the first time you've used it, you can actually unmute yourself to ask a question without actually coming on to the screen if you are worried about that, or if you don't want to deal with any of the technology, just feel free to post any other questions that you have in the chat box and we will get to them in that Q&A session. So with that, we want to go ahead and jump on in with our guest tonight, Jarrett Jones. And do you want to go by Jarrett tonight or Jay?
Jarrett's fine.
Okay. All right. And so, we talked a little bit about who I am. So if you want to start off and tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Jarrett. Obviously, hi. Right now, I currently work for Anthem as a customer service advocate. I've been doing that for almost a year. I have a 5-year-old. She just turned 5, actually, April 14th. I'm engaged. We're planning on getting married sometime in the fall of next year. Trying to work that out with everything going on in the world today. I'm a collector of sorts. I like to, collect collectibles from TV shows and stuff that I personally enjoy. And, I'm an avid gamer and sports lover. So, I'm very simple, I guess you can call it the typical male, PlayStation, TV, and sports.
Got it. So I'm sure that you're hurting a bit with all of the sports being suspended while we are dealing with COVID-19. I know that, my husband and I, we are avid college football fans. And so we're just kind of like biding our time, waiting for the announcement that we think is going to be coming, that the 2020 season is not going to happen. And so we're already starting to go through withdrawals, and we are watching any and everything on Netflix that's even remotely football related, just so that we can see something that reminds us of football. So yeah. So how are you holding up with no sports as a sports fan?
I mean, I'm doing okay for the for the most part. It's not affecting me as bad as I know it's probably affecting y'all out there. But I know it's actually I'll take that back. It just kind of affected me a lot because I miss my Mets and like so I'm like a diehard Met fan. And I personally don't think that baseball's gonna be played at all this year, even though they're trying to find ways to do it, like playing in Arizona, Florida, and they're trying to do it like bringing a third state right now. I just don't see that happening at all this year. Personally, I don't think any sports are actually going to be played at all this year until maybe next year with everything that's going on. So, I just stick with the YouTube clips and what a lot of teams are doing, not teams, leagues, what a lot of leagues are doing is they opened up their premium subscription-based models, NBA League Pass, the MLB MLB TV, they opened it up so they have all the games from like last season and the season before on there. So I've been watching those, keeping busy with that, and just finished up All American, that TV show. So I'm doing okay without my sports so far.
Good. Okay. I hope that you're able to continue to cope. So, let's talk about it, right? Like, COVID-19 has definitely changed life for all of us in some way or another. Most of my audience are women entrepreneurs. So there's something that they have built or that they have bought into that they are doing on a day-to-day basis. And, it's impacted them. It's cut out anything that we're doing in person. I was talking about even earlier today that, Boss Talk is typically an in-person event, but we've had to move everything online. And so there's disadvantages to that, but there's also advantages because then we get to talk to guests like you who are in Indiana and not here in East Valley, Arizona. But it also does, come at a cost. With everything that we're dealing with the pandemic. So talk to us just briefly about how life just has changed for you. How is it different now that you are dealing with everything with COVID? I know that you have 20 years of experience in customer service. How has that affected your career? How has it affected home life? How are things different now juggling all of those things and being with, your 5-year-old like 24/7? Like, cause I know I have a 4-year-old at home and some days it's just like, WTF, like what is going
Yes,
on? Like, yeah, like we need a babysitter. Like I'll pay for like your safety suit or whatever to come in the house, but like, I need a break from you, you need a break from me. So tell us how things have been affecting you.
Well, I actually am in one of the more blessed positions during this time because I am allowed to work from home. So I'm not like losing out on any money or anything like that, like a lot of people are. And I know, as you said, like a lot of your listeners are entrepreneurs and women and things like that. So I know like having small businesses, it has to be extraordinarily rough at this time with not being able to open up and be able to get your customers and everything. So, I mean, initially I was like, I wasn't taking this as seriously as it is. So I thought it was kind of a joke for the most part, like with everybody wearing the mask and gloves and being like a uber germaphobe at this point in time. But with the amount of people that have been dying, and I know a few people back home that have contracted the virus and had family members that contracted the virus and things like that. And then by proxy, they had family members that died from the virus and everything. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, very serious and scary situation. But I'm just, at this point, I'm just thankful that I'm able to still work from home, and being in the healthcare industry. There's no shortage of people who have questions or need help with prior situations and situations now with the COVID-19, everything like that. So I'm thankful in a way that I'm still able to work and have a job and be able to support my family. But I'm also like concerned about how this is going to go forward with my family and everything, with everybody else, because my daughter, she should be starting kindergarten in the fall, and this online schooling thing, it's a completely new entire beast that I am not used to at all, and having to like try to school her and show her the classwork and stuff like that. I mean, I do have my mom who helps out during the day with that, but I don't want her to be like the main teacher for that. So I try to step in and do stuff with her as well. But it's a lot. It's a whole lot, and with everything being shut down and even grocery stores turning out to be like a scene in Grand Theft Auto where people are fighting for food, trying to get toilet paper and paper towels and things like that and everything. It's a very rough and scary time right now.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. So how are you dealing, with all of those changes at home? So, a lot of the women that I work with personally in the consultancy and that are community members of Boss Talk, they wear a lot of those hats as well. They have their business. They oftentimes also have a spouse or a partner. They have children that, range from various ages. Tell us, kind of like how you're coping, how you're balancing all of those, your new normal, if you will, of being the dad and working and, the fiance, but, and everybody being home because, there is no outlet, there's no going to the mall for like a walk around to just kind of have some space or going to the library or a lot of those things that we as parents typically rely on to be able to like let our children have space away from us and give us quite honestly the needed space away from them. So how are you balancing all of those things? Because a lot of the women entrepreneurs that are part of the community deal with that too. They're finding themselves in a new normal and trying to get into a rhythm of like, how do I balance work with my kid being home and me being their sole teacher, something that I didn't go to school for. How are you balancing those things?
Um, I would say I'm true. Like I'm still learning how to balance it.
Okay.
I'm an introvert by nature, so me being home all the time and not having to go out and go anywhere, it's like a blessing for me. So I don't really have to see people. I don't have to do anything, and I still get to work. So the way for me personally, it's a blessing, but it's more along the lines of trying to figure out how to get space from my fiance, from my child, and how to give them space because we're always on top of one another. And on top of that, my daughter, she's very, very much a she's very much of a person who likes the attention and likes to play a lot. So it's trying to like get that break from her and then giving her mother a break and stuff like that. So I'm trying to think of ways, which I do. Like I take a bike ride in and we go throw rocks and we go for walks and stuff like that. So her mom can have a break from time to time. And then she would give me breaks because she would like to go on her on our phones and go on ABC Mouse or watch Lion Guard, which is her new thing, just to binge watch all 3 seasons of Lion Guard daily. And so she's finding ways to give her a break. So when she gets her break, she gives us a break. So I mean, we're doing the best that we can at this point in time, which is what anybody can really do. But it has had these moments where it's like, okay, we on top of one another all the time now. Like you gotta like give me 5 seconds, 5 minutes to like catch my breath and to relax and everything. But it will get easier over time. So I'm just like trying to take it day by day right now.
Got it. Yeah, I totally, ABC Mouse has been like a game changer for us for sure. Because I mean, it's nice to have the break, but it's also nice knowing that they're doing something that's educational and
Mm-hmm.
is actually feeding like their little minds instead of just, sitting and watching a cartoon or something like that. So I know that for us, it hasn't been a huge change. Both me and my husband both run our own businesses, so we both work from home. So the going out hasn't been much of an adjustment on our end because we're both kind of homebodies, but we have noticed that, that desire, like you were saying, to like be able to have your own space, even for just, a few moments, it's a lot more critical now, right? So those moments when I realize like, hey, he needs a little bit of extra space away from the family. He might go out into the studio and spend a few hours in the studio shooting or editing or things like that, where I might need some time away, and I'll take my laptop and like go into our master bedroom. And one of the things that I just recently binge watched was Tiger King. Like, I am not the mom, I am not the wife, I'm not cooking dinner tonight. Like, I'm up here eating cheese and crackers, and you all will eat whatever you find to eat in the house, and it's just me and
Yeah.
Tiger King tonight. And so, we're even finding that with our son, right? Where there are times he's very energetic, he's very social, he wants that attention, he wants to talk to you kind of 24/7. He even talks in his sleep. I joke, like, he's only quieter in his sleep, but he still talks in his sleep. We're even finding that he will be off, like, in his room, like building something with his blocks, or like playing with his dinosaurs, completely away from us, because it's like, he needs time away from his parents as well. So it's just like, yeah, that I think is like the biggest thing that we're trying to adjust to, is just giving each other that space when your home is really like, that's all you've got. You don't have the babysitters to rely on. You don't have places that you can go to rely on. And it's just us and, the safety
Mm-hmm.
of our home. And how do we make it okay for all of us, being here? So I want to ask you about this post that both of us saw on Facebook. So we have a mutual connection on Facebook, and there was a post that was shared, and it was a picture of a man, a silhouette of a man. And on one side of the picture, it was, "I'm fine." And on the other side of the picture was the depiction of the man's internal thoughts. So those were things like feelings of failure and money worries, and I don't do enough for my family, feelings of inadequacy, stress, needing more time, feeling burnt out, the need to set better examples, confused. And so I know that both of us reacted to that post, and I know that you had some comments that you had put out there. And so I wanted to ask you, for our audience that we have tonight and those that will be listening afterwards, what is the one thing that most resonated with you about that particular post?
I would think it was like well, to me, when I saw that, it was like a sense of overwhelming. Like, because as men, like, sometimes we all like feel the need that we gotta be the provider, we gotta be the protector, we have to be able to ones to be able to keep the foundation of the home together and getting like bills paid and everything, food on the table and stuff like that. So to me, what I saw in that post, it was just like a sense of overwhelming feelings taking over, almost like basically anxiety, like trying to be able to like make sure that like your child has food on her table and clothes on her back, and making sure she's okay and making sure that she's happy, especially now. And the same thing, trying to do that for like your wife or your spouse, whoever the case may be. And so like for me, it always comes down to like, are they happy? Are they in a place where like they don't have any worries or any concerns? And it's like I try to do my best for that. So when I saw that, it just resonated with me so much, because I always think in my mind, am I doing enough for my family? Are they going to be okay? If like anything was to happen to me, would they be straight? Would they be safe? So it's gotten to a point, which is why like I'm so thankful to be working right now. Because if I wasn't, I'd be like probably over the top, like just worrying about the situation where like the next bills will get paid or the next food will come from. So for me, it's always just about, I guess for the most thought bubble would be like the money thought bubble, just to try to make sure that we are taken care of, that we have a place to sleep at night, and that we have food on our table and everything like that. And I'm like really thankful, because like my fiance, she's like my backbone. Like if she wasn't here, like I would just be like wild and just reckless. She keeps me centered, and she keeps me like grounded, and lets me know like all right, things may be rough, times are hard right now, but like we have food, we have clothes, like we have the bare necessities, so we're good. So she keeps me like focused and forward, going, like moving in the right direction, and not like looking at all the negative stuff and like getting anxious about what we may not have or what we may not get and everything like that. So I just looked at that as like an overwhelming thought, like with just everything crashing down on somebody's mind. And I'm just like, I'm just thankful that I have her like to stop everything from crashing down on my mind. So I'm just like, I just try to do my best as an individual to make sure that they're happy and they're satisfied and that they're taken care of.
Got it. So, as an entrepreneur, like money, revenue, like that is such a huge piece of business. Because like my friend Nadia says, like, no sales, no money coming in, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. And so, I think that train of thought is very similar for someone that's in, a 9-to-5 corporate job, and, someone that is also doing their own thing in their own business. So with that, like that was one of the things that it sounds like resonated a lot with you about that post, about thinking about money. How do you deal with like the overwhelm of thinking about financial situations when all of those thoughts and all that pressure is like on you? Like how do you deal with that?
I have a lot of different steps that I've taken to not succumb to the anxiety or the overwhelming thoughts about like finances and things like that. I've been in therapy since I can't remember, going back to 9-10 years old, because I was diagnosed with bipolar at a young age. So I went through all the hospitalizations, therapy session, medication, stuff like that. So over the course of those years, I've learned how to deal with certain situations by taking certain steps to keep my mental clear, to keep myself focused and not dwell on negative. So, I mean, personally for me, I tend to either just like go for walks or just go for long drives, just aimlessly trying just to clear my thought and not think about anything, or just like get like wrapped up in a TV show or a movie that requires a lot of thought, like thrillers and stuff like that. And just anything that can focus my brain on something other than the situation at hand. And I find that myself, when I come back to the situation or the scenario, I find myself not overwhelmed with it, but being able to find other avenues or other things to make this the situation a little bit more better. So that's what I do for myself.
Got it. So it sounds like it's taking a break, stepping away from the situation that's overwhelming you and like focusing on something else and then coming back to that thing.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So as I was looking at your definition of self-care, and I'll read it here for everyone, and it's that self-care is taking responsibility for keeping your mental health in tip-top shape. Without your mental health in order, everything will crumble before it. So talk to us a little bit about how you came to that definition of self-care, and why do you define it that way?
Well, it goes back to like how I grew up, just coming out of mental hospitals and therapy sessions and things like that. I've seen a lot of things literally and also figuratively mentally break people and physically break people to the point that they are no longer who they were prior. So when I say that you got to keep your mental health in line, that's basically where everything starts. If your mental health is not in line, is not taken care of, then everything else that you have around you, everything that you have going for you, sooner or later will fall down. It'll crumble. So you could be like a multi-billionaire with hundreds and thousands of companies running, making billions and billions and billions of dollars. But if you don't have your mindset straight, if you're not thinking clearly and thinking properly, all of that can be taken away from you in an instant, in the blink of an eye. So for me, to have your mental health together, to have it straight, just to have somebody to talk to, you may not need like medication, you may not need therapy, you may not need anything. But if you could find something for you personally that works for you, because not everybody's the same, everybody's different. If you could find something that works for you, that can keep you focused, that can keep you going and not making you feel depressed or like wanting to give up and everything. If you can find that for yourself, then you would be all right. I just think a lot of people, especially men, they don't feel that they need to do that, because as Black men, we were always taught like not to express your feelings. You gotta be hard. You have to like, and if you feel something, if you show emotion, that you cry, that you're soft. And that's a stigma that I personally don't want to subscribe to anymore. Like, there's nothing wrong with being emotional. There's nothing wrong with crying. There's nothing wrong with feeling overwhelmed, or like leaning on somebody or going to talk to somebody about your feelings. That to me makes you stronger than just being, all right, this bothered me. I don't feel like dealing with it. I don't feel like talking about it anymore. So it's like, to me, that allows you to get your mind together, to get yourself straight, because if you're not healthy mentally, everybody and everything around you is going to fall. So that's just where I'm at with that.
Got it. I love that approach of not just like shutting down and shutting out everybody else that's around you, but being okay enough to be vulnerable with the people, especially the people that you live with. Because I think that it's very easy for people to see like something is not quite right, but when you shut people out and try to keep them at bay, like a coping mechanism, or just you're thinking that you're trying to keep yourself safe, like you're just keeping all that inside and you're not actually like dealing with it. So I love that you are trying to fight that stigma of, hey, I need to like deal with this like all by myself. I can't let anybody know like what's going on with me. I'm not allowed to cry, because that's not a healthy approach to dealing with emotion. And so I know that you've talked very candidly about therapy and your journey that you've had, with mental health and, throughout your life. Can you give us maybe one of like your core to do things that you focus on that helps you focus on your mental health, like that when you're feeling a certain kind of way, like, hey, this is like one of my go-to things, like I do this and it kind of helps me, get back together. It helps me to be able to let, my fiance know, or, let my therapist know. Like, what's that like one go-to thing that you could share with us that helps you focus on your mental health?
The one thing that I do,
Mm-hmm.
I would say the one thing that I do personally is that I'll curse out everybody and everything, like not like face to face, because I don't want to try to offend anybody like that. But I do it like on my phone. Like I'll like write notes to whoever's like pissing me off at that time, or whatever the situation is. I'll write a note on my phone. I'll like say all types of very disrespectful things in that note, and then I'll delete it. And then that's where I know that I need to talk to like my therapist, and I'll like have a discussion with her, or I'll have a discussion with my fiance. Or if there's like nobody at that point in time, I'll just like write it out some more and like have a discussion with myself, and basically just be like, all right, Jay, this is what the situation is. You can either do A, B, and C, and you'll get a result that equals an F, or you can just do X, Y, and Z and go back to A and just be at the beginning and just be chill and calm about it. So that's what I tend to do, because sometimes the person is not available to have a conversation with, or the situation that I'm in may not be the type that can lend itself to having like a conversation, and you just need to like deal with it on your own, but not like having it internalized, but just like expressing it outwards. So I just try to like write notes and just like let all frustrations out, all type of negative energy out, and just like when I delete it, it's kind of like I'm figuratively deleting the negative thoughts and feelings that I had towards that situation, to like just cleanse my spirit. Because like I've slowly, as I got older, become a very big believer in the energy of people, and how the energy of situations, and how like something negative can negatively affect you and make you upset and everything like that. So like I've tried to bring as much positive energy to my situation and my surroundings as possible with things that I do. So that's where I really go with that. It's just like writing notes and just becoming extraordinarily disrespectful and getting it out the way and then deleting it and then trying to like erase it and just move forward until I can like now talk to my therapist or however the case may be.
Oh, I love that. So it reminds me a lot of a burn exercise that I have some of my clients do. So especially in an environment that we're all in, dealing with like our new normal and trying to adjust to everything the way that it is now. And what I have them do is get a sheet of paper, and very similar to what you're saying, like they write out the things that they're frustrated about, things that maybe negative feelings that they have about a certain situation, anything that is not serving them well, that they want to just get out of their headspace. They write it down on a piece of paper, and then when they feel like they've gotten it all out, then they burn it in a safe way. So, we're not like burning down houses or things like that.
Yeah.
Finding a way to actually burn it as a way to let that go and to get that weight off of yourself and letting it go, so that you can get back to like focusing on the things that you need to do, and like you were saying, like redirecting that energy into something else positive that you can focus on instead of it lingering with those negative thoughts and all of that pressure that you have on you, keeping all that stuff in your head. So I love that tip. Love it, love it, love it. So at this point, what I want to do is I want to open it up to anybody that's actually on the call with us to ask any questions that you might have. Again, you can ask that question of me, of Jarrett. You can just get on and actually give a statement if you would like, if something that has been talked about already resonated with you. And again, if you don't want to necessarily come on camera or unmute yourself, you can type it in the chat and I will read the question for you. So if anybody has a question, please share that with us at this time. And there's always like the awkward silence at first because it's like, I don't know if anybody's typing or if they're trying to like get themselves unmuted. But seeing no questions and not hearing anybody chime in. Oh, wait, I see somebody unmuted. Kiana, do you have a question?
Yeah, this is me. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for your candor and your transparency. I really, really appreciate both of you talking about this topic. I know that, everybody kind of views this time that we're in kind of differently about what it means for them. And so I'm just curious to know, like, what do you guys feel like this was for? Was this more on the reset side? Was this more on the pause side? Have you learned any great lessons going through this time away from the rest of the world? Just curious.
So I'll defer and let you answer first.
Okay. For me, I think this is a reset because I really don't think things are going to go back to the way that they were prior to this. I do think that people are going to be more self-conscious about how they cover their mouths and wash their hands, which is sad to say because like at this point in time in everybody's life, unless you are under the age of 1, you should know how to like wash your hands and cover your mouth when you sneeze and everything like that and be proactive and try to keep yourself healthy. But I think that since this is being the first pandemic since the influenza came, I think it was like 1909 or something like that, when that first hit, that I think people are going to be more aware of trying to be clean and not get people infected and be more self-conscious about other people around them and not letting people get sick and being disgusting and like wiping their nose and then touching handrails and stuff like that without washing their hands and things like that. So I think this is going to be a complete reset with how people move and interact with other individuals. And for the second part of your question, like I think that for me, what I appreciate most about this is just the fact that I'm spending more time with my family, even though, like I did say earlier, that we're on top of each other and it gets annoying at times. there was a point in time in my life that I didn't really care, like to like know my family or be around my family, and I was just like by myself and doing my own things. But as I got older, I appreciated more like the time that I have like with my moms and like my fiance and my daughter and cousins and stuff like that. So it's like I look at this time is even though like I can't really like be around other people and things like through FaceTime and stuff like that, I do appreciate the more time that I am hanging around with my fiance and my daughter, my mom, and stuff like that, and just enjoying that family time.
Yeah, and so Kiana, to answer your question, I feel like I'm looking at the new normal as a reset. As well. And so it's very interesting. I was having a conversation with my mother-in-law, I think it was last week or so, and we were talking about our, pending new normal that will be happening or coming around, once things kind of settle down a bit. We, are able to deal with COVID in a much better way, and it's not just free flowing and just kind of everywhere, where things are open back up and kids are back able to go to school and we're able to go to churches and those kind of things. When we get into that new normal, I know that I will be taking with me the lesson of saying no to the busyness. Being a business owner, looking at my calendar, it just as recent as, early March, it was, I'll even give an example of like the couple of weeks, like leading into us going into a personal quarantine. I was speaking at a corporate engagement that I had, and then a couple of days later, we found ourselves in the hospital with my son. He had a seizure, and 2 days after that, I was back, speaking again. Found out that a very dear loved one of mine in Ohio had passed away, and so then it was making arrangements to get from Arizona to Ohio. And literally that week of the funeral, I had a TV appearance on Tuesday and was at a funeral on Friday. And then dealing with just all of the other stuff with the business. In between then, it was just like busy, going to networking, going to events, preparing to speak, here, being on the road, juggling all the stuff with like my husband being a photographer, like my son's school schedule and his extracurricular activities. He's 4 and he has his own calendar now. So he's got school stuff and he's got soccer and he's got this. And there was just looking at it, it was just busy. And, having these conversations, like one of the reasons that I left corporate America when I left in 2014 was because I had such shitty boundaries with my time that I experienced burnout. And so that's one of the initial joys of being an entrepreneur. You're in charge of your own schedule. You can do things your own way. And I think that I had gotten comfortable getting back into that busy schedule, sometimes for the sake of just being busy, it almost seemed like. And so now that all of that has been stripped away, like I'm not under pressure to leave the house. I don't have to go to this event. I don't have to go here. I don't have to rush to go to this thing or to that thing. And it's just like, oh, like this is what, in a sense, I wanted when I left and I relaunched my business in 2014. And little by little, without even really paying attention, I let, those time boundaries start to slip away, and taking earlier meetings or later meetings or working way longer than, I had promised my family that I would. And so I think that is what I am taking away, is being able to say no to the busyness, really evaluate, like, does this fit what I want to do in the business and my priorities with my family, and being okay saying no. Because now that the calendar, like I haven't looked at my calendar and seen blank white space on my calendar in ages, quite honestly. And so to look at it and not be obligated to go here and to go there and to do this and to be on this call and to be on that call, it's quite nice. And so I think that is one of the takeaways that I'm taking away from this season, is saying no to the busyness, really making sure that what I am saying yes to is in alignment with what I want to do, and being okay with my no's to protect that time, because it's precious. And I was way too busy. So hopefully that answers your question.
That's exactly what we talked about.
Hello.
My mother. Hi.
I didn't know he had unmuted.
We did. We unmuted you.
Let's get together.
Yeah, my in-laws are on the line, so it's a treat. It is a treat. Oh, Mom.
Bless your heart.
Hello.
Love you.
Hello, nephew.
Hi, Uncle Ralph.
Uncle Booty Belt.
Hilarious.
I'm glad to see that the two of you are both well adjusted. Okay. I love you both.
We love you.
All
Love you
right.
too, Uncle.
And daughter-in-law,
Yes.
look at the screen and quit looking around.
Hey, I'm managing a lot of things over here. You can't come on my show and give me a hard time. That's not part of this.
Nephew,
Yeah.
try a sentence without the word like.
Like what sentence should you
Way to go,
I mean,
Jay.
like what you want me to say though? Like
Never
I don't
mind. Never mind.
Hilarious. All right. Are there any other questions or comments from anybody else, any of our other guests on the line? Okay, hearing none and seeing none, I have one follow-up question that I want to ask you. So for those that are on the call or those that may be listening after the fact, what advice would you give to anybody that is listening about all of those internal burdens that they might be carrying in their own self-care? How to deal with all that stuff, that's in their headspace, all of those feelings, just like that meme that we talked about that we both saw on Facebook about, that, and, the importance of their self-care. What piece of advice would you want to leave the listeners with tonight?
I would say that you have to find a way to get out your feelings. Like whatever may be going on in your life at the time, there may not be a positive outcome to it or anything like that, but it doesn't mean that you have to keep what you're feeling inside. Like that's going to be the detriment to yourself as an individual and as a person. You have to find a way to release that negative emotion in a healthy way, because there are ways that you can do it, but that may not be healthy, but you got to find a way to do it that's healthy to you, that allows you to grow and to continue moving forward as an individual, because nothing good will ever come from internalizing any type of negative feelings or any type of emotions about any type of situation that may be going on. You have to find a way to just express it in a positive way, whether it's talking to somebody, whether it's writing it down, whether it's just like singing sad songs and crying. You have to find some way just to get that emotional release, because if you keep it bottled up inside, it will explode in a very negative way. And in a point in time where you don't want it to, more likely than not, and then the consequences from that, you may not have ever wanted or intended to have happen. So, it's just best to get that negative feeling and emotion spread out and outside and just dead it.
Got it. I love it. So thank you so much for agreeing to be my guest tonight. And thank you tremendously for your vulnerability and your openness, talking through the questions that I asked you and sharing with us a piece of your journey that you have gone through and how you are focusing on self-care. And hopefully something that Jarrett has shared tonight will resonate with you that are listening as well. And so that concludes the session of Boss Talk. And if you are yourself an overwhelmed entrepreneur and you want some support in getting shit done without burning yourself out the boss way, be sure to check out therealbosstalk.com for some additional resources after tonight's call. With that, take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you all soon.